Thank you, David. Our speaker today is Scott Alvested, Community Engagement Coordinator for KMOS-TV, the PBS station that serves Central Missouri. He's going to tell us about the impact of the congressional rescission of all federal funding for PBS and how KMOS is moving forward. Scott has been with KMOS for 6 years, joining in February 2020. He has over 15 years experience in community engagement and 12 years experience in fundraising and development. Scott currently resides in Odessa, Missouri, and has been married for 29 years to his wife, Tresina, a special education teacher with the Odessa School District. They have one daughter who is currently a senior studying accounting at the University of Central Missouri. Welcome, Scott, and please correct the pronunciation of your wife's name. I'm sorry, I think I messed that up.
No, actually, you got it perfectly correct. You did good.
Oh, thank you.
Well, thank you for having me.
Oops, he's muted.
Whoops, you got muted accidentally there, Scott. Can you unmute?
There we go. I'm good now. Okay, well, thank you. Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Yes.
That sounds great. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you again for the invite. I appreciate it. And we are always more than happy to talk about KMOS, PBS, and about what we do, why we do it, where we do it, and the mission we have for Central Missouri and how we help really kind of make our communities a better place to live, learn, work, and play. So with that, I'll kind of get into a brief presentation, and I'll kind of talk about what we are, some of our services that we offer, some of our programming, some of the resources that we offer to our communities, and then go into a little bit about, again, how the rescission order last year impacted KMOS and public broadcasting to a degree as well, and what we're doing to move forward, the steps we're taking so that we can continue to be a vital and vibrant part of our communities. And then afterwards, I believe we'll just open it up to some questions. So I will go ahead and share my screen, and we'll get moving with the presentation. Okay, you should all see the KMOS logo there, and let me know if you don't, I guess. Are we all good with the presentation showing up?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Let's see. All right. So again, just kind of an overview. KMOS is a PBS member television station. We are licensed to the University of Central Missouri out of Warrensburg. We've been in operation as a PBS affiliate since 1979. We actually signed on the air in December of that year. And we broadcast kind of high quality, not really kind of high, it is high quality, engaging, educational, and entertaining programming to those in Central Missouri. We have 4 over-the-air broadcast channels that we have. KMOS PBS, which is our flagship channel, KMOS Create, KMOS Emerge, and then our PBS Kids channel. And I'll go into a little bit about each of those channels a little bit. But did you know that KMOS reaches about 20,000, a little over 20,000 square miles and beyond? And this is due to our broadcasting tower, which is located in Syracuse, Missouri. It's a little tiny town right off of 50 Highway between Sedalia and Jefferson City. Our broadcast area is actually one of the largest broadcast areas for a single, a single stick operation. So basically one antenna tower. With a little bit of bleed, our broadcast signal really kind of reaches from eastern Jackson County on the western side of the state, so around Oak Grove area of Jackson County, all the way down to about Rolla, and then from almost Bolivar all the way up to Mexico. So it's a pretty large swath of the central portion of the state. And again, that is because our broadcast tower is the tallest structure in the state of Missouri, again, located in Syracuse. It is at a height of 2,063, and I think there's a half foot in there as well, um, which is just short of about 600 feet of a half mile in height. To put that in perspective, that's about 2.5 times the height, or maybe 3.5 times the height of the St. Louis Arch, about 6 times the height of the Statue of Liberty. So it's a pretty large structure. There is an elevator that goes most of the way to the top. Once you hit about 1,900 feet, then you have to hoof it with a ladder. I have not been to the top. So about some of our channels, KMOS 6.1, this is kind of our flagship channel. This is where we have everything from Antiques Roadshow, my favorite television show on PBS, which is Nova, Nature, all of the masterpiece and dramas, plus a whole host of music shows, including Austin City Limits. It's really what I like to say, it is programming that really encourages people to dive deep into the entertainment, but also it really causes you to think and to have a lot of self-discovery about yourself, but also the world around you. Our Create channel, KMOS Create 6.2. This is really the public television's best of lifestyle and how-to programs. I'm kind of a foodie myself, so I really enjoy the cooking programs. But we have cooking to travel, quilting. Bob Ross is where this will appear as well. So those that want to follow along with Bob Ross, they can find Bob Ross on KMOS Create. And then 6.3 Emerge is a channel that we actually curate the programming on it ourselves. This is, we will reach out to and gather programming from there's NHK, which is news from the South Pacific. Sometimes we'll have France 24, which is news programming from Europe, other dramas, other programming, but just kind of a whole host of everything. We will also put on their programming that maybe earlier appeared on our flagship channel, but at a later time slot onto this channel, so you can catch it as well. And then 6.4 is 24/7 PBS Kids. Anytime, anywhere. It is, the kids programming that is loved and trusted, available 24/7. PBS Kids is also available online on mobile devices and completely free of charge. One exciting programming note that's coming in September is there will be a new PBS Kids program that will be starting in mid-September that is coming from Jim Henson Studios, which is, I think, The Muppets. So that will be coming in September. And then somebody asked me about this earlier. A digital offering we have is PBS Passport, KMOS Passport. This is the on-demand streaming service that features pretty much everything that PBS has done on a national level. But what is really neat is it also includes PBS programming from local affiliations, including KMOS. So some of our own local productions appear on Passport as well. So we have had a local program called Making, where we feature local artisans and artists and organizations, and those episodes are available free of charge on our streaming channel, PBS Passport. Passport is also a member benefit. And so for just $8 a month or a $96 annual gift, that is a member benefit of PBS. So you get access to all of that content, which is just thousands and thousands of hours of on-demand content available to view on whether it be your TV, your computer, your phone, tablet. You can take it with you. We actually have people that sign on to our streaming services actually from Alaska. And you might wonder, why would we have people from Alaska watching the KMOS localized content in Alaska? Well, the answer to that is one of the areas that we serve is Whiteman Air Force Base in Knob Noster, Missouri. A lot of those service members actually get transferred to Alaska. And so they just kind of keep KMOS as their localized PBS content. So we have a lot of people in Alaska watching the digital product. And then another offering we have, which is really geared more towards educators, and this is a free education tool, is PBS Learning Media. This provides educators pre-K through 12, and actually, honestly, even college educators with access to free digital content, professional development opportunities, and tools that they can use in the classroom. That includes clips and images, all from the entire PBS library. And the nice thing is, when an educator creates a profile, they'll type in their zip code, and then it automatically curates all of the educational content to that state's education standards. So if someone would type in, 65203 for Columbia, it will curate all of the content to meet or exceed the Missouri DESE standards. If they're in Kansas, they'll type in their zip code for 66105, and it'll bring up the Kansas content that's curated to meet the Kansas Department of Education standards. But this tool is completely free for educators. They can use it for their classrooms to help design things for their classrooms, the coursework. They can design tests, online things, using the entire PBS library. So if there was anything like on NOVA about the Apollo missions, they can bring up everything about space exploration and the Apollo work and everything like that and work that into their classroom studies. And then my favorite part is the community engagement. This is really the bulk of what I do. We are really proud to work with our school partners, our civic groups, local organizations, to really help make our communities great places to live, work, learn, and play. We go out into the communities. We will host screening events for different programs, community events where we'll bring costume characters and help expose those local communities, not just to PBS, but hopefully other local entities. We were just in Mexico, Missouri this last spring, where we had a Be My Neighbor Day. Right along the lines of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. We brought in Daniel Tiger, and that was kind of the big draw, but we also used it as a tool to expose children and young families to the community helpers. So firefighters, policemen, ambulance, emergency management, public health, the local school systems, WIC providers. So the local helpers in the communities, and expose the children and young families to all those resources so that they know they're there, they're not afraid of them, they know how to access them and get information about everything that's in their communities that really, again, can help make everything a better place. We also do other initiatives like our annual writers contest, where we have students from grades kindergarten through fourth grade write and illustrate stories. They send them in to KMOS. We have a panel of teachers judge these stories, and they have an opportunity to win some neat prizes and things like that. And so we really encourage all people that watch us, but also our communities, to join us and be part as a community champion. The overall, PBS is really kind of the most trusted and valued and essential part of a lot of our communities, and PBS has been doing that for well over 50 years. For 23 straight years, PBS has ranked #1 in public trust, with many saying it's an important part of what their communities are. Strong television. 77% believe that it's important to have a strong public television system. 89% believe that PBS it has an important role to play in providing emergency alerts, and we do that for our communities in Central Missouri. We know for a fact that KMOS is, in a lot of the rural areas in Central Missouri, is the only broadcast that they can receive over the air for television. So those emergency public alerts are critical for those areas. Likewise, PBS Kids has become and really is the most trusted name in kids programming. Parents continually tell us 91% say that PBS Kids is really their go-to for helping prepare children for success in school. When we go out and talk to people about who watches PBS, we know for a fact that the PBS audience is, by and large, over any other um, uh, mainstream media broadcast. The audiences that watch PBS are the most educated audiences out there. And there's a reason for that. We educate them so they will be educated. So a little bit about the rescission order. So we were defunded, but we've not been defeated. As we all know, last July, the bill revoking the already approved funding for the Corporation for Public Broadcasting was passed that basically clawed back all of the funding for that had been allocated for public broadcasting. So that was for PBS stations, NPR stations, but also other non NPR and PBS related public broadcasting outlets as well. So, because the Corporation for Public Broadcasting was not just PBS and NPR, there were some other stations that relied on funding from them that were not affiliated with either of those organizations. Some stations, in terms of television, were impacted more than others. In the state of Missouri, we have 4 PBS affiliated stations, one in Kansas City, one in St. Louis, one in Springfield, and one in us, serving the central portion of the state. 2 of those stations are community-based stations, Kansas City and St. Louis. The other 2, KMOS and then Ozark Public Television, are university-based stations, significantly smaller than Kansas City and St. Louis. For Kansas City and St. Louis, the rescission order and the cut that came with it equated to about anywhere from 15 to 18% of their operating budget. For KMOS, we are a much smaller outfit. It actually equated to about 40% of our annual operating budget. So a significant cut to our operating budget. But again, while the federal funding is gone, KMOS is not. KMOS has for a long time put in place operating procedures and policies that we basically operate and have operated for several years as a pretty lean organization. We actually only have 13 full-time employees. What that means is pretty much everybody wears multiple hats. Myself, I handle community engagement, but also work with our education partners. I do a lot of our marketing, a lot of our fundraising and development. I also have handled a lot of our corporate and underwriting support. So, and I'm not the only one at our office that wears multiple hats. Whereas larger stations like Kansas City or St. Louis or others, that might be 5 different people. So we operate pretty lean. Additionally, we've always been very good stewards of the gifts that we've been given by our donors and members, making sure that we utilize those funds in a very thoughtful and strategic manner. So we're not just blowing funds, when they come in. So we've been able to build up a good foundation of funds with our university foundation. The University of Central Missouri Foundation is our 501c3 partner, and they are actual ones that actually kind of hold our funds for us. But we are doing everything possible to continue to make sure that we bring the best programming possible to Central Missouri. And we know that because of the cut, because it was so large, there are going to be some changes. There have been some changes that already happened. But the same programming that a lot of people love on PBS is still there, available online and on air. But there have been some changes. some of the programming. So last year we actually had a film series that we had to pay for. We did not renew that film series. Um, the programming that we have on air, not all of it comes to us just free of charge. We actually have to pay for a lot of that programming. And so we are very strategic about what programming we actually put funds towards, making sure it fits with who we are, our audience is. It's something that's going to appeal to them. Or if it's something new that we're trying, we're being very specific and make sure we're gauging what those audience responses are so they know that it's something that we maybe want to grow or not renew necessarily. So we're always taking a close look at um, not just kind of the ratings numbers of each of the program, but what we're hearing on the streets from people as well. When I'm out and talking to people, one thing I always ask them is, what are they enjoying on PBS and KMOS specifically? What are the programs they're watching? What are the programs they're not watching? And we take that back, so that helps us kind of make some more data-driven decisions, but also kind of get the pulse of what people like on our channels. So there have been some changes, but as of right now, there have not been any staff cuts, which is great. And we are fortunate that we have a university that has been very vocal in that they have our backs. The University of Central Missouri has been a great partner of ours. They are the ones that essentially hold our license, and essentially I am essentially an employee of the University of Central Missouri. But they help fund us. But the nice thing is that even with the orders and the cuts, we are to a degree mostly fairly solvent in terms of with the university budget. There's not a whole ton of the university budget that comes into the KMOS. But they're great partners of ours, and we like to consider ourselves a teaching station. I mentioned we only have 13 full-time employees, and that's true. But we get a lot of the other work done on the station by utilizing students from the University of Central Missouri. And that provides them not just with a little bit of an income because they are paid employees, student employees, but that provides them with some valuable skills and hands-on experience. And we employ not just students that are maybe in front of or behind the cameras, but we also employ students that help us out on the logistical sides with the accounting, the finance, working in our marketing and social media. So these are giving those students, again, hands-on experience that they can utilize down the road and giving them an experience of working for a professional organization and use that on their resumes, which I think looks great on their resumes and things that they're going to go do later in life. So looking forward, and I like to say that we are looking forward with resolve. We are looking forward strategically to ensure that we remain a strong and vital part of all of our communities. Some of the initiatives we're working on to make sure that we kind of help bridge that gap from the funding that we lost is working to increase our membership base. Right now, we have about 7,000 or so, some odd members of KMOS, those that are at the $96 level or above. But we know that we serve well over 1 million people in Central Missouri. So one of our big pushes is to increase that membership base to 10,000 and slightly above, or essentially 1% of those that are in our broadcast area. And so working and getting out and not just, talking to people on air, but just like what we're doing here, I'm talking to you via Zoom and talking to all of our other constituencies to make sure that hopefully we can grow that base just a little bit. And that will help us, again, kind of bridge that funding gap as well. One of the other things we have done, which has been a change, and those that were asking about Passport, we did raise the rate or the member benefit level of Passport. It used to be a $5 or $60 annually amount. So we did raise that to $8. And that is, one of the moves, again, is helping us kind of bridge that funding gap. Internally, we're aligning our station staffing so that we can increase some external funds. We're working with some different approaches in terms of getting some underwriting and sponsorship support from corporations and organizations. We're actually working with a new company that will help us kind of get out and hopefully increase those levels. I mentioned that I was working and doing a lot of our corporate and underwriting support, and I still do. But it's also a little difficult being an hour and a half drive from our population base in Columbia. So working with a partner to help us be more and do more in that field, we hope will increase that level of support. But that's also what we've also been able to reach out to organizations for some grants to help bridge the funding. And part of some of those conditions of those grants is to grow areas of corporate and organizational underwriting and sponsorship support. So that's one way to help address, one of those check boxes, if you will, for that grant. We're also looking to increase an increased focus on legacy giving opportunities. And this is something that we have been doing for some time, but working with and make sure we really focus on this. Any nonprofit organization, a lot of times will tell you that the largest gifts that they receive are usually not just one-time cash gifts, but actually from gifts that come in through some sort of legacy channel, whether that be through wills and estates, but also IRA donations. So those that have to make their minimum qualified distributions through their IRAs, life insurance beneficiaries and other bequests, things like that. Any nonprofit organization will tell you that the largest gifts that they receive usually are through those channels. So we're making sure that we engage our constituencies through and informing them about these opportunities that they can support KMOS and PBS through those channels. Coming up in October, we will be hosting an event in Columbia in partnership with the Central Missouri Community Foundation and others to educate our audiences about the importance of future planning, whether that be through wills or setting up trusts and other mechanisms to not necessarily avoid probate, but to help ease the process of making sure that their legacy is carried forward in whatever ways they wish. And we're also focusing on working to engage our members and viewers and donors a little bit closer to see if we can't work and establish a deeper connection with them so that we can utilize their own personal networks, if you will. Working with them to see if they can advocate for us, be the connector for us to help us get in front of those that might be able to help us both from a not just a financial standpoint, but maybe a promotional standpoint, and also maybe even a civic and political standpoint as well. So making sure we're working with our members and trying to engage them and work with them so that they can help us in ways that they also, aside from just financially as well. And then again, I mentioned this, we're being very strategic about the programming that we're selecting and working on some digital enhancements and things like that to make sure that we're doing things in a very smart, data-driven way, which we have always done, but just keeping a very tight eye on it. As part of all of this, obviously we've been tightening our belts and making sure that we don't just do things to do things. We're doing it with a very specific purpose in mind for what we do and why we do it, and make sure that we get gain out of it, not just for us, but also keeping to our mission and serving our communities as well. So a lot of people always ask me, how can they help? Obviously, supporting us by becoming a member. I mentioned Passport at just the $8 a month or $96 annually. Passport's included with that. or additional gifts. We never turn away. I mean, we actually have a donor, and I'm sure he's being a little facetious about his stuff, but he sends us a nickel every month. It actually costs us more money to process it, but we have to process it anyway. But also view the programming, watch the programming on air, watch it online. We've actually crossed over the threshold that actually we know for a fact that more people actually watch us digitally than they do over the air. So one of the neat things we have now, we have the ability to localize some of our local messages to those that watch us online. And then, two of the things that I'm really passionate about, I encourage people to advocate for PBS and KMOS, whether that be with your local elected officials and community leaders, both public and private. So if you or even a local business that might benefit from partnering with KMOS, mention us to them, advocate for us to them. Same goes for elected officials. Occasionally during the, well, not occasionally, but during the rescission orders, there was a big push, and we saw a huge number of people in Central Missouri write and call their local elected officials about the rescission orders. And we always encourage people to do that and advocate for KMOS and PBS and really making sure that we're there for them should they need that. And then obviously help KMOS connect to those in your network that might be able to provide support or sponsorship assistance or connect us with others that, again, can help spread our message, if you will. So a few of our upcoming events here in a couple of weeks, we're going to be at an event in Warrensburg. I mentioned in October, we're going to have an estate planning seminar. You can learn more about that on our website at KMOS.org if you're interested. And then in November, we'll be in Columbia again for an event at the Ragtag Cinema. An event meant more for families. We'll be screening a Wild Kratts episode or movie at the Ragtag Cinema on that Saturday as well. So here's some of the ways you can actually not just connect with KMOS, but find information about what we do, where we're doing it, and why we do it. Obviously, our website is KMOS.org, but you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and on YouTube. And then if you haven't done so, I encourage you to download the PBS app on your phone or a digital device. And then if you have kids or grandkids, the PBS Kids app and also the YouTube channels are completely free of charge. And that has a whole host of not just episodes for the kids, but also games that have been curated again to make sure that they're providing educational content in a fun environment as well. So here's my information. We'll get to questions, but you can always reach out to me through email. There is my direct line that actually bypasses the main line. That is my direct line directly to my desk that I'm sitting at right here. And this is always the fun part. This presentation was made possible in part by viewers like you. Thank you.
Oh, I love that familiar ending. And it's not an ending. We can have questions. I'll call on Herb, and if Scott, you want to peruse things online, you can do that at your convenience, or I'll curate those questions on.
Yeah, I'll try to kind of go through, but yeah, if there's open it up.
Let's hear from Herb right now. Herb, can you take there? Good.
I was unfortunately muted by myself, and as you know, I rarely do that. Thank you very much. I deeply appreciate your taking over KMOS. We're supporters of you, Passport members, and supporters of PBS stations across this country.
Well, thank you.
PBS is the gold standard for public service broadcasting in this country. And WGBH Boston one we supported for a long, long time. As a good exemplar of what could be, but is beyond the reach of the finances of this place. Thank you for your background in finance. Here's the problem. You ain't got enough money. You do not have a sufficient endowment to protect you, as does WGBH or others independent of universities. When the particular leanings of a particular administration go ways that are not as much supportive of public broadcasting as another moment. This is something I talked about quite a bit with an admired friend and former student, Stacy Woelfel, whom you know well. What are you
Name
going to
sounds
do?
familiar,
What
but
are
I
you going
can't
to
place
do
it
in
right
this
now.
regard about building up an effective and unilaterally controlled endowment? What can you get away with? You're using something, but it's not full control.
Right. Yeah. At least for us, and the cut, really impacted us. And like I said, we were fortunate enough that we had for at least for our individual station, because in the state of Missouri, each station operates independently. We are not a statewide system, much like Iowa or Arkansas and or Alabama, some of those others that are facing some other issues. So we don't receive any state funding directly. We do receive, I guess, probably some state funding indirectly through the University of Central Missouri. But we did have a sizable nest egg, if you will, built up with the foundation. But you're right. Yes. I mean, if push comes to shove in terms of endowment size, yes, there's probably not, even the big boys like, WGBH out of Boston, would have some issues. Yeah, in terms of politically leaning with that, I would hope at some point, they could get together. But I know a lot of that would take some significant work, because originally how things were set up is that everybody would be kind of independent to a degree. And so getting all of that together is going to be a sizable chore, if you will. I think it's a goal. But yes, ideally, things were going along pretty good, but even, there had been some losses, even during the Reagan administration in regards to funding. So, yeah, aspirational wise, I would love to see a kind of a national endowment that the stations would all kind of pool into. But I don't know if that's something that is A, feasible, or B, obtainable with the current setup of the way public broadcasting is currently set up and how it was originally kind of set up. I hope that kind of does or doesn't answer some of your question, but no, we were very fortunate. And I saw one question in the chat about how KBIA might had kind of with the stuff had kind of negatively impacted their relationship with the University of Missouri. And I hope I addressed this. Right now, KMOS is on very good terms with our university partner. And we have not had any inclination from the university leadership or the assigned board of governors, because the governor of the state does assign our board of governors, which our president answers to. So we have not had any leanings on that front, and lessening of support from that body as well. So.
Okay, David Mallory.
Yes, thank you. Appreciate it, Scott. Thank you so much for coming here. A question I had was, you mentioned earlier St. Louis and Kansas City were community-based, whereas you and the
Yes.
one in Springfield were university-based. So I can understand
Yes.
university because it gets some funding, some support from the universities. How do community-based systems work? Or they have more advertising, or how does that work?
Well, as you can imagine, it's yes and no. Yes, because a lot of times the community-based channels are in a little bit larger metropolitan areas. There is a little bit more opportunity there as well. So I grew up in Kansas City. I grew up with Kansas City PBS or KCBT, as many know them. I know for a fact that they have some inroads with large foundations and some pools of donors that we just don't have access to. I know Julie Irene Kaufman, but we're not getting any funds from her. Whereas Kansas City PBS is, because that's right in their backyard of the Kaufman Foundation. Same goes for St. Louis and some of those other areas. We love Central Missouri, and it just a lot of that's the differences between urban stations and rural stations, honestly. Additionally, there are differences also between, like I said, in the state of Missouri, where the four stations are independent of each other, whereas like a statewide system, like Iowa PBS is a singularly controlled unit, and they just have repeater towers, if you will, throughout the state. But there's only one studio or headquarters in Des Moines, if you will, that does the entire thing for the state. So they also receive some funding from their state legislature and budgets as well. And that is something that some states are really fighting for their lives for. Oklahoma is a example that's been in the news lately, where the governor is wanting to cross out funding for public broadcasting in Oklahoma, but the legislature wants to keep it. And so there's been a lot of fights. Some other states, actually Arkansas, has voted to disaffiliate with PBS. But then there was a cry for not doing that. And so now that's all up in the air too, because there was a public backlash. Same goes for Alabama and some of those other statewide type.
Can you comment on Kentucky? I listen to it when I'm with my family in Southern Indiana, and that system seems really impressive in terms of local music and local culture. Really successful, and in that way, I don't know about other ways.
Yeah. KET does a really great job with their structure. I'm not quite sure what challenges or non-challenges what they've been up to. Honestly, I don't have a whole lot of contacts with KET as I have with. I've worked closely with Iowa PBS on a couple of different things, and we go up there and have done some stuff with them. They produce one of the shows actually we carry, which is Market to Market, which is more of an ag and farm related show. And we know that the audiences that we serve in Central Missouri is honestly a very politically diverse audience. And so we do try to make sure that we have programming that honestly does appeal to essentially both sides of the aisle. Market to Market, while it's very non-political leaning, we probably do know that it probably does tend to skew a little bit more right of center. And then we also partner with the Missouri Times for This Week in Missouri Politics.
Yes.
So, and again, a very non-politically based type show, but we also know that what they tend to skew in terms of audience wise. Obviously, Jefferson City is right in our breadbasket in terms of our viewer demographics and our marketing area. We know that the state legislature and those there watch KMOS. So we try to make sure that we are we're doing things that appeal to a broad base, not just one side of the aisle, if you will.
All right. Was there more, David, you wanted to ask about?
Yes, another question then. I had checked a year or two back with KBIA about sponsorship from the local Democratic Party, and they said they do not accept political sponsorships from political organizations. I wonder, do you have any restrictions along that line?
We do. It's along the same lines as we, just like we don't accept political messaging for campaign things like that. And again, we have the same type policy, and the reason for that is nothing against those organizations or what they do, and it's honestly a lot of it's kind of to save our own bacon from in case something happens.
Okay, we have a list of questions, not surprisingly, from Dave Taylor in the chat that have to do with programming and the nuts and bolts of decision making. If you look through those, Scott, is there some of that you'd like to
I will answer those
with?
I can. I don't have some of the exact dollars and budget figures. I'm trying to look at here in terms of, let's see here. Yeah. So yeah, a couple different things here. Yeah, the CPB with CPB, and one of the things that we did find some confusion on in regards to CPB or the Corporation for Public Broadcasting was this last fall, and I think it was actually in more April or March or May, they actually voted to dissolve after the rescission orders from last July. Basically, the nuts and bolts of that came down to really the board at the Corporation for Public Broadcasting honestly wanted to make sure that, politically leaning wise, even though they were dormant because they had no funding, they did not want the board to be able to be used for things that necessarily wasn't originally meant to be used for. So by dissolving it, that kind of squashed that ability. Um, So what that means for down the road, if they're able to restore funding, since the public CPP has kind of gone away, there would have to be a new mechanism, whether those funds would have to be directly divested to the individual stations or entities, or through, because essentially CPB was essentially a middleman for those funds. So what that would entail, I don't know. Um, I'm seeing something here in regards to how much of our budget is consumed by the national programming, or how much of your programming budget is consumed by national PBS programming. We do use quite a bit of programming from PBS or other public broadcasting outlets such as American Public Television and others. So PBS does not necessarily dictate what programs we use or don't use. We are free to diverge off of that, but we do stick to kind of their scheduling fairly close, just from honestly a standpoint as we don't have the resources to do as much local content, say you will, as say like Kansas City PBS or St. Louis, where they can do their full hour-long length, Kansas City in Review type shows or things like that. We have a production staff of two. And so they're kind of busy doing some other stuff. And so we don't have necessarily the resources to do as much of that local content as, say, like a larger station. Funding wise, I'm not sure what that chunk is. So I do apologize. I don't have that answer for you. Yeah, so like channels like 6.2, then in terms of why they are or are not carried on some other carriers like DirecTV, Dish Network. A lot of that goes into an FCC rule called must carry. And so legally, those carriers in a certain area have a must carry rule. They have to carry the primary channel, so our 6.1. They do not necessarily have the obligation to carry the ancillary channels.
So it's their decision rather than yours.
Correct. We are able to provide it. A lot of the cable carriers they do have it, but under the FCC guidelines, and I used to work for a cable company up in Kansas City, and we fielded these questions quite a bit. But yeah, that it's a must carry law, and it only really applies to the primary channel and not any ancillary channels.
Well, like other federal agencies, FCC is just in the news too much and too confusing these days. So I certainly wish KMOS all the luck they can get dealing with FCC and keeping things going the way they want to. That seems to be what you said you've been able to do. And when I think about service to rural Missouri and that, half-mile high tower, seems like you're doing great work that some of which the public should pay for, but that's just my opinion.
But we have seen a great groundswell of community support. Our fundraising numbers are up, absolutely, and we greatly appreciate all of that funding, and it has helped us, close that gap in the loss of funding. It's not completely closed, I will be honest with you, but we are surviving and we're, moving forward. But it's been thanks to a great groundswell of support from our communities. And any fundraiser will tell you the initial bump is the easy part. The hard part is sustaining that.
Sustaining, yeah. Well, when I use the word public, I did mean government, sort of limited
Yeah.
government interest. But that brings up the whole thing that a few of the questions have alluded to too. Um, there's a certain sense in which PBS has done almost miraculous job of being independent and not influenced by one party or the other, by one corporate interest or the other, in spite of, dealing with all of those people
Right.
in many different ways as carefully and as much as they can. Um, I guess the past couple years or so, or past 10 years almost, has frightened me that this situation has changed. Maybe it's been changing for a long time anyway, and that we're in danger of losing a valuable part of our culture in some way. And you
Sure.
could do that by agreeing to go with some corporate or government entity as well as being rejected by them. That's just my overall view. How am I not seeing your situation here? Or is that the way you're seeing it too? Like, how can we keep doing
Well,
what we do?
yeah, you don't want to just kind of just rest on your laurels and, status quo. Obviously, there is some of that because there's a lot of institutional knowledge that we keep in place and as we move forward. But obviously, with this, and the nice thing is KMOS is small enough. We've always been able to nimbly react to situations. Um, and so obviously we had an ear to the ground as this was coming forward, and what are some things we can do um, different or better, to make sure that we remain strong and vibrant. What are some weak areas? Obviously, people have heard of doing a SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, and all of that. And we've looked at that and where are our weaknesses? What are our strengths? What can we play into? What do we need to work on? Um, a colleague of mine a while back in a different industry, when faced with budget cuts, said we've got to, do more with less better.
Well,
And
why, for example, shouldn't the state want to have a supportive role in your emergency and in your educational programs? I mean, that just seems
yeah,
like a
absolutely.
no-brainer.
Yeah, and the emergency broadcast part of it is an interesting point to it, and we've been successful in making some good inroads with the state,
Good.
and specifically, what are the aside from the rescission orders that KMOS was affected by, was right before this administration started, was we were awarded a grant through FEMA. And additionally, with that, the Missouri SEMA, State Emergency Management Agency, um, to construct and build a new tower. And it was about a $900,000 grant. Um, and with when all this came down, aside from the rescission orders, a lot of those FEMA grants were pulled. Uh, and the way grants work is a lot of times you're awarded the grant, you have to go out and buy the stuff, and then you're reimbursed.
Yeah.
Um, so we did go out and we bought a tower. Was not erected, but it was ready to be shipped to us. We now have it. It's sitting on the ground at our current tower site. We've made steps to protect it because something just laying dormant like that can quickly deteriorate. Um, but we're now working with other partners because we did get some of those funds back, but not the entire amount. But we were out essentially $400,000 for the amount that we paid to purchase that tower. Now we've got to the hard part, honestly, with those towers is not so much even the equipment. It's expensive, don't get me wrong, but it's the erection of those towers.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
And so we're now working with other partners and granting agencies and things like that, so we can do that, because we were working with, obviously, closely with SEMA, the Missouri State Emergency Management Agency, and the federal branch of that as well, for our emergency alert type stuff and what we can do with it. And there's some new technology that allows not just that alert to be one way, but also to a degree two way, and working with a lot of that and the new technologies on that. And that was kind of part of that grant, and we're still following up on that. In terms of with the state funding models and things like that, what they want to do with it, obviously we're trying to engage with them, and there is some um, uh, affinity towards that. It's a lot of, and, anything politically, you've got to work through a lot of steps to get those to happen.
Oh, sure. Um, Thank you for that broad-ranging answer to my general question. Kathy Jensen.
Yes, maybe, well, one of my questions is, has your board developed like policies or strong guidelines about what corporations you will reach out to in terms of what the corporations are doing, what their mission is? And then I have a second question.
So in terms of reaching out to corporations, organizations about, in terms of you're referring to like underwriting and sponsorships?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Actually, PBS, we do follow some PBS guidelines on that. And then we also do have some FCC guidelines in terms of what we have. So, and we are reaching out to, honestly, a wide range of organizations and corporations and, small companies and outlets. Some of it, so just kind of various. Obviously, with the FCC guidelines, there are certain things that we can and can't say, we can and can't show. Um, so we're at a little bit of a difference than like a normal commercial outlet. So there are things that we can't say. We can't have a call to action. So we can't say call now, or we can't say we're the best, hamburger joint this side of the Mississippi. So there's no superlatives, and then we can't show certain things, or can't show anybody enjoying a product. It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
Even so far as being careful as who does the voiceover work on announcements and things like that. So there are some stipulations on that. In terms of what companies we can and can't reach out to, there's really not, aside from like I said, the political stuff. We do try to limit certain stuff in terms of if it's like a marijuana dispensary or some of those. We try to kind of, because of what our programming is and who our audiences are, we try to shy away from some of that, things like that.
Well, I might put Dave Taylor's question to you right now. He said, has anyone on your board or advisors complained about 6.3 carrying democracy now? That's sort of like one of the, for us,
Yeah,
that's one of
no, and I'm very familiar with
the
that
border
show.
areas.
So, in terms of our advisory board or anybody at the university, we have not had any that I am aware of pushback on that show as of yet.
Okay. And, as you said, you of sort of major well-known shows, you have diverse and other showings now, but we're dealing with administration who wants to exterminate, at least as far as we think, certain ideas, and it's not about inclusion with them. So we worry about keeping this gold standard. I mean, I think we broadly agree, at least in this group of people that I know, that it's a standard we want to keep. I don't see any other important questions, so maybe I'll let Herb take the last one. He has some great
David, I
questions.
had one more.
Okay. Kathy, I'm sorry, your follow-up. Yes.
Yes. Yeah, well, it's on a different topic. What I was wondering is how many school systems in your area, or how many teachers from school systems are utilizing your educational resources, which sound wonderful. Do you have
Yep.
some way of tracking that?
Yeah. So as of right now, at least last time I checked, honestly, which was about a month or so ago, um, was that we had a little over 1,100 active users, active educators in the state of Missouri using our the KMOS linked to the PBS learning media. So we have quite a few. We also can also track, if they're educators, what grade they're teaching, or if they're students utilizing this. So overall, in terms of just educators, it's about 1,100 or so teachers. In terms of actual school districts, we actually reach probably close to 400 different school districts across our broadcast area.
Wow. Thank you.
Yeah, we have a lot of school districts in Missouri.
We do. Unfortunately, I can't get to all of them.
Yeah, right. That makes it tough. Anything else, Kathy? Okay, thank you. Herb, let's wind it up here, and then let Scott
Or
say
down.
any final words that he
Or,
wants to say
or
too.
down. I'm going to ask a question that you may opt not to answer.
Okay.
It is that I have been here on the faculty or joined the faculty in 1971. And there are certain ways in which KMOS history is different from some other public broadcasting system programs that I know in terms of adventurism, provocativeness, and taking a chance. I remember when WGBH rebroadcast The Goon Show from BBC, which where Peter Sellers got her start. It's absolutely, totally insane. I actually brought this up a couple of times with Stacy when he was director. And he said, I wouldn't dare. There is a history, I won't call it timidity, but carefulness, not to be too outspoken and out front. Do you expect that to continue?
Some of it, there's a lot of variables on deciding kind of what we air and don't air. Some of it is what is the messaging, but also, honestly, some of it is cost. Um, you know,
Granted.
our audiences love Doc Martin. That program ain't cheap.
Yeah.
Um, in terms of, the messaging on some of them, yeah, I think we try to adhere to our mission and what our audience is wanting or not wanting. We try not to let, honestly, the political messaging necessarily get in the way too terribly much. We really don't. We air a lot of the, so for instance, a lot of the independent lens programming, we air, without cause, is very left leaning on some of it, the messaging on independent lens. We have no qualm or issues working with them on that type of stuff. And like I said, a lot of what we do air honestly follows the PBS schedule, if you will. Again, a lot of it goes back to because we don't have the resources to do a ton of our own stuff. But in terms of what we decide to air, a lot of it is does it fit with what we currently have, or is this something we want to try new? Or honestly, sometimes it's cost. And I think I see things in here with Monty Python and things like that, and I would love that. I would also love to do some Doctor Who stuff, but A, we don't have the rights to it. B, if we did, it's pretty. It's not necessarily cost prohibitive, if you will.
Yeah. Okay, final words. What do you want to remind us to do? I
Well,
think you did that at the end.
I just want to thank you guys for inviting us, allowing us to talk a little bit about again what we do and why we do it, and if you do want to learn more, please feel free to reach out to me. You can reach me on my email, which is my last name Alvested Alvested at ucmo.edu, or call me directly, area code 660-543-8922. And then also support KMOS, whether that be through your donations, or advocating for us, or helping to spread the word, and or connecting us to those that can also further our mission and what we do.
Well, thank you so much. You've told us a lot of things that I certainly didn't know, and I thought I knew a lot about this subject. So thank you so much, Scott.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll do some announcements. If you want to hear what we're up to, Scott, you're welcome to stick